What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market because obviously we had a big move up there over the weekend. But of course, we're going to take a look at the bigger picture of all of this to say, do we have the momentum to go for an absolute escape over here in the crypto market right now? My thoughts are we're working our way to this, but there's still a few steps along the way to get there. The best news about all of this is, of course, we are seeing the breakout happen over there in the Russell 2000. Last week, the weekly candle utterly obliterated the last retracement level. And here we are kicking off the new week, and it's still continuing to go. It should be no surprise. Bitcoin then put in the biggest weekly candle in history, over $11,500 in 1 week, lifting off shortly after the Russell 2000. So when it comes to all the macro elements that we're looking for things to be doing well, we're getting them, and price is responding accordingly. We've seen things like SWI continue into price discovery, setting new all-time highs. Cardano took back 7 months of price action in a mere 5 days, while Dogecoin has already taken out the highs from back in March, along with Solana, which is now poking above its last retracement levels from the entire 2022 fall. We are starting to see an escape happen here. Other positive developments are things like Coinbase or Coin. Their stock price struggled over here at the retracement levels back in March and April and July. Last week, when the Russell 2000 broke out, taking Bitcoin with it, Coinbase went all the way back to those levels. Here we go. We can see in pre-market, Coinbase is above all retracement levels. So expansion happening over here in Coinbase. And we can see interest returning as the Coinbase app has now moved up in ranks to number 81, whereas just a few weeks ago, it was sitting in the 300s and 400s, but interest is starting to return back to the market. So whether we look at the price of the Coinbase chart, Bitcoin being in new all-time highs, the Russell 2000 escaping all retracement levels, various altcoins starting to break from retracement levels, or interest returning to the market, it seems as though the direction we're heading is to eventually get into a full-blown escape over here in the market. While others may not be as far along, we can look over here at Total 3 and see that it has taken out all retracement levels over here and these peaks that were set back here in May. And so Total 3 is going to be the entire altcoin market of the cryptocurrency market, excluding Ethereum. Others is the entire crypto market, excluding the top 10. But as we can see down in here, the extremely high buy volume that has come out of here, taking this rip up with it. So, a lot of times when we look at these breakouts and these moves happening, you try to look for things to corroborate it and say they're the juice behind this to say this one is actually real. Well, you have the high volume, you have the retracement levels getting cleared, you have the biggest weekly candle there in Bitcoin, and you had this event happen at the same time. And we had gotten to a point where it was like, we're just sick of talking about it, being like, look, we're waiting on the Russell. If the Russell can break out, we'll get it. Sure enough, we get the breakout. It's still continuing to go. You got Total 3 through the retracements. Things are looking very positive in the market. I think the big question is, how do you work your way out of here and how do you get it into like the really exciting phase? I think right now is pretty exciting, but the reality of things like ADA doing these big, massive moves in 5 days, this is still a retracement in here. It hasn't expanded. We have a couple of altcoins that are getting through those retracements, but the majority haven't. And while things have been moving up very aggressively for the last 6 days, I do want to say it still can be a bumpy road. And I think it's a bumpy road until we get to here, when others can reach back to its retracement levels. And I think we are going to stall out here at the retracement levels, and then unfiltered YOLO crazy euphoria hits the market once we can actually escape from those with conviction. And I think the market goes way higher once that moment happens. Right now, we're all just kind of excited to see some upward price action happening in here after several months of just waddling down here at the lows. But from the context of even Wyckoff accumulation happening down in here, it would still be appropriate to have to, build some type of sign of strength before getting back in there and then ultimately getting out. Any type of corrections happening in here wouldn't be small. You see things like Cardano in 5 days shooting up 100%. Not unreasonable to have quick 33% falls happen in the market because we've now entered volatility, only for it then to turn around and keep going. An example of this would really kind of be what we've been talking about for a long time. in that we've kind of already experienced what was similar to the C19 crash when we pulled all the way back down in here. And that once it finally gets an escape, you could see how volatile things can get in here. And these percentages are not baby percentages of what these things can happen in. Shooting up 150, 200%, pulling back 50%, up 150%, back 50%, until the true escape happens, which what we're talking about is like that right there. And so there could still be a bumpy road to get back up there, but the true buckle in, hold on, crazy moment comes once this actual escape ends up happening right here. So it's fantastic to see this thing starting to do things like that. These have what we've been waiting for forever, right? We've talked about that even with DOT doing the same thing, that the whole March retracement of the cryptocurrency market was like C19. It was just like a retracement, but instead of doing a flasher down for C19, we just draw it out for forever. But the next phase for a lot of this market is really working its way back up to those resistance levels until a true breakout can actually take place. I think we're heading there, because that tells us the story that it should. But even here, like on the safety trade dominance, it's definitely moving down, but it hasn't broken down yet, which means we haven't entered that crazy phase yet. And I think that all happens here. And I think what I'm trying to portray here is you have a lot of positive things happening here. You've got the Russell 2000 getting out. You've got Bitcoin setting the biggest weekly candle in history. You've got the altcoins ripping. You got several of them through retracement levels. You've got Coinbase breaking through the March highs. You have the juice, the energy, the excitement, and people returning back to Coinbase as its app rankings are increasing. And I don't even think we've reached the crazy part yet, which is where this thing breaks down, which is the safety trade dominance. And if you're new here, this is essentially what the dominance of Bitcoin plus Ethereum plus the stable coins of USDT and USDC is, that there still hasn't been this massive broadening out happen in the market yet. And that's still ahead of us. But a lot of times I come on here and try to kind of cool emotions down a little bit, whether that's when we're in extreme excitement or if the market's in extreme depression, and being like, look, you're not alone. Everybody's feeling this way. It's typically a good sign. Like we talked about back in September when the euphoria was completely washed out of the market. It's typically when things reverse. But as we're working our way back up in here, just kind of keep it in mind, there could be a bumpy road. I would expect there to be a bumpy road. It's normal for there to be a bumpy road. But ultimately, the goal is to get back to the retracement levels over here and then await that moment. And if and when that comes, it's on. The clock is ticking. Now, while I am issuing caution that it's probably a bumpy road to get back up there, you may hear more optimism in my voice than we heard back in earlier this year. So why would I be more optimistic now than what I was earlier in the year? And it comes back to, again, reiterating that theory or that idea that was presented about a year ago. We're back on November 30th talking about the idea that we would see others go back to a 702 Fibonacci retracement level and then have a 50%, 55% correction to pull back down to the preliminary support, which is what we did end up seeing as it hit the 702 retracement and then pulled back to the preliminary support. But ultimately, that it would recover to eventually find its way out of here, which is what we are now looking for, especially with the Russell 2000 now breaking out. We weren't in an expansion back here when it came to broader markets, and the element that's always been necessary is that guy, and we officially have him. So it's easier to look at it through this perspective of an expansion in the cryptocurrency market, because it's something that we've talked about tremendously, even like this post back in September, that 6 months ago today, Bitcoin topped, and maybe, just maybe, it requires stock market breadth, opening, and expansion. And guess what? We've got it. And then we've got the biggest weekly close in history for Mr. Bitcoin. I think there will be bumps along the way, and some of these bumps may be pretty big, but I think we'll see some big rips happen at the exact same time, and that we're entering the big volatility moment. And while there will be bumps along the way, the ultimate thing that I'm looking for here on the channel is to get back to this moment. And then once that gets cleared, that's it. It's on. We're in the thick of it. The celebrities return back to Twitter. They're pumping and dumping random coins, memes, NFTs, whatever it is. But in the thick of that moment, for us to all remember that these moments typically don't last very long, 30, 60 days, something like that. And then that's the end of it. But right now, it's about structurally trying to get back to here and then building the strength to go for the big breakout. And that's just kind of the process we're in right now from my perspective. And our signal of all of that will be the big breakdown happening in here, which obviously we haven't even had happen yet, but we're already seeing a lot of positive price action. So it's fantastic. And as CZ Binance tweeted, just the beginning. I agree with that. I think it will be bumpy until others can get through the retracement levels. I think this market will be different from what people expect from 2012, 2016, and 2020 in regards to it being a broad expansion of all markets together, that this is more of a rotational top happening in equity markets, which is what I wrote about in my last newsletter. I highly recommend you check it out at blockchainbacker.substack.com. This was written back in October before the breakout, but it does appear we have excitement ahead of us. And there's a lot more to talk about. So it'll be a fun week. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Like I mentioned, you can check the newsletter out over here on Substack. If you'd like to learn how to set up your own charts and indicators on TradingView and CoinTrader Pro, you can check out my website over here at bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content. There's links down here in the description of each of my videos and live streams to bcbacker.com and to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, it's like being in a dream right now, seeing this Russell 2000 breaking out. I've been praying for it a lot. We've got it, and we'll just have a lot to talk about this week, so it's great. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.